Good morning, afternoon, or night, everyone. Follow Guy 1997 here, and welcome to my podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that combines science fiction, engineering, and one of the most complicated video games ever made. I'm talking about recreating Project Hail Mary in the Kerbal Space Program. But to make it more Kerbal-wise, I'm just going to call it Project Hail Carey. If you don't know, Project Hail Mary is a science fiction story by Andy Weir, the same author who wrote The Martian. The story follows Ryland Grace, who wakes up alone on a spaceship, traveling through deep space on a mission to save Earth. One of the coolest parts of the story is the ship itself, called the Hail Mary. It uses a spinning designed for artificial gravity and travels across interstellar distances using fictional fuel called astrophage. Now, recreating that in Kerbal Space Program is both awesome and extremely difficult. Kerbal Space Program is known for realistic orbital mechanics and rocket physics. Players build rockets, space stations, and spacecraft using different parts, and then actually have to fly them without exploding, which happens a lot if you use the time warp and do a turn without having any auto strut on any parts of your ship, mainly on small decouplers under big objects like engines. The first challenge when recreating the Hail Mary is the shape of the ship. In the book, it has these long fuel tanks and a rotating habitat section called the centrifuge that creates gravity by spinning. In Kerbal Space Program, you could technically build that using hydraulic pistons from the Breaking Ground DLC and using docking systems, but could take a lot of testing to stop the entire ship from wobbling apart if you go too fast. A lot of players online have actually attempted this already. Some use huge numbers of mods to add futuristic engines, better structural parts, and realistic heat systems. One player even recreated a spinning centrifuge section so the ship could rotate like it does in the story. Another big challenge is propulsion. In Project Hail Mary, the ship uses astrophage fuel, which doesn't exist in real life or in KSP. So, players usually replace it with modded engines like antimatter drives or photon drives to imitate the insane speed of the Hail Mary. One creator even increased the power of engines hundreds of times to better match the acceleration for the book. What I think is really interesting is how Project Hail Mary actually fits the spirit of the Kerbal Space Program perfectly. Both are about solving impossible space problems using creativity and engineering. In Kerbal Space Program, missions constantly go wrong. You run out of fuel, flip your rockets during launch, or accidentally strand your astronauts on another planet, and you wouldn't even know how to save them. And honestly, that sounds exactly like something that would happen in the book. The community also seemed to love the crossover between the book and the game. On Reddit, people joke that Project Hail Mary is basically a normal Kerbal mission because everyone ends up stuck in space with no fuel and no backup plan. Another reason this recreation works so well is because Kerbal Space Program teaches actual orbital mechanics. A lot of science fiction movies completely ignore realistic space travel, but Project Hail Mary tried to stay grounded in science. That's why so many Kerbal Space Program players appreciate it, even when the science fiction is fictional. The engineering mindset feels believable. If I were recreating the mission myself, I'd probably start with a heavily modded save file. I would then go online and look for any pre-built files for the ship, even if the ship has a launch vehicle. That would make it way better. Then I would download a mod called Project Hail Mary Continued, because it adds astrophage, which if you remember is the fuel that was used for the Hail Mary. But you also have to unzip the file and add it to the game data folder to make sure it appears in your game. The hardest part would probably be balancing realism with playability, because a truly accurate interstellar mission in Kerbal Space Program could take hundreds of years in game. So I would either recommend just going to Joule, which is similar to the destination in Project Hail Mary, or downloading a mod that adds the planet from the movie and book. And going to that modded planet, and also remember to choose which street Kerbals to sacrifice. For realism, use Chatting Kerman as the pilot, Hadkin Kerman as the scientist, or Grace, and Jandis Kerman as the engineer. I recommend getting the Breaking Ground DLC and the Making History DLC to get a spacesuit that looks like the one in the movie. Overall, I think recreating Project Hail Mary and Kerbal Space Program is one of the coolest examples of science fiction inspiring creativity in gaming communities. It combines storytelling, engineering, physics, and problem solving all into one giant space mission that probably explodes several times before finally working. Thanks for listening, and hopefully your spacecraft survives re-entry better than mine usually do. And make sure to auto-strut your builds. New videos soon on how to modify the cost of engines soon by editing. Bye!